Greetings, my darling cherubs. I'm so excited to talk to you today about prepositional and appositive phrases. These are really awesome ways to enhance the quality and clarity of your writing, and it's important that you be able to identify them. So let's get started. So when you have a basic sentence, there are two things that you absolutely need. And the first thing you need is what we'd call either a noun or a subject. So a subject of a sentence is pretty much always either a noun or a pronoun. So it could be I, it could be cake, or it could be hippo, a hippo. So we've got this nice little hippo here. And then I'm going to add to that the other important component, which is a verb. So in this case, I would add the verb dance. So now I have a noun, hippo, and a verb, dance. And to make a sentence, all I need is those two elements, because I can say hippos dance, or the hippo dances, or any other sentence like that. Susan smiles, Hannah laughs, Evelyn jumps. And then you can kind of elaborate from that to make your sentences more complex. So a basic sentence almost always has a subject and a verb. The only rare exception might be if you had a sentence with an interjection, like if I said alas or goodness, but those are pretty uncommon. So most sentences are going to have a subject and a predicate, also known as a noun and a verb. So just like that song we used to sing, Mr. Morton is the subject of my sentence, and what the predicate says, he does. So we've got a hippo and a hippo dances. And that is how we get ourselves to a basic sentence. Hippos dance, or the hippo dances. Cute little hippo, isn't it? So in order to make our sentences more interesting and to provide extra information for our readers, we have to allow for different types of phrases that get added to that basic phrase, the hippo dances, or whatever it might be. So there's two types we're going to talk about today. Appositive phrases are made up of information that somehow clarifies something else in the sentence. So if I was talking about the hippo, I might say, hippos, some of the world's largest animals. That's extra information. Some of the world's largest animals. I don't need it, but it might be helpful in, giving the reader a sense of what we're talking about. So it provides additional information about something in the sentence. I could say, my mom, an avid recycler, or Mrs. Major, my BFF, whatever it might be. So provides additional information about something in the sentence, and appositive does that. It also does something else. It is separated by commas on either side of it. So there are a few exceptions to this. Sometimes you'll find an appositive at the beginning or the end of a sentence, and we'll talk about that. But generally, it's put into the middle of a sentence and there's commas on either side. And that kind of is a reminder to you that it's possible for the sentence to survive if we get rid of that appositive phrase. And what I mean by survive is that it still can be read as a sentence and it makes sense. So if I said something like, Miss Gillen, my best buddy, loves jazzercise. If I took out my best buddy and I just kept the rest of the sentence, it would say, Miss Gillen loves jazzercise. And that's still a complete sentence. So that extra information, my best buddy, is just that. It's extra information. So it's an appositive. If I can separate it out with commas and I can take it out and the sentence remains, that means it's an appositive phrase. Let's look at some examples. So here's one to start. My doctor, Emily McGillicuddy, studied medicine at Harvard University. There's one sentence. Here's another. My brother, an avid Lord of the Rings fan, once watched the entire Lord of the Rings movie trilogy in a single day. True story. I don't know what he was thinking. An accomplished cook, Daniel Royds, once competed on MasterChef Junior and won $3 million. Way to go, Danny. And last of all, at school, I like to wear Tom's shoes, my favorite type of footwear. So these are four sentences, all of which contain an appositive phrase. So let's look back at that first one. My doctor, Emily McGillicuddy, studied medicine at Harvard University. Now the only thing I could remove from that sentence would be my doctor's name, Emily McGillicuddy. So I could take out her name and I could say my doctor studied medicine at Harvard University. It's still a complete sentence, but by providing that appositive phrase, I'm giving you more information. I'm telling you her name. Now, similarly, in the second sentence, I'm telling you my brother, who is an avid Lord of the Rings fan, true story, once watched the entire Lord of the Rings movie trilogy in a single day. Now you look and see what's separated by commas, what can we remove, and you discover, once again, it's inserted in the middle of the sentence. I can take that part out, and I can say my brother once watched the entire Lord of the Rings movie trilogy in a single day. So that fact that he's an avid fan is just extra information. It's an appositive. It's helpful, but it's not required. Then we have a different example down here. An accomplished cook, Daniel Royds, once competed on MasterChef Junior and won $3 million. Now in this case, we have an appositive, but it's at the beginning of the sentence. So if I took away an accomplished cook, I'd still have a complete sentence. So in this case, you only have a comma on the right side of the phrase because you're starting the sentence with a capital A at the beginning. Now the last example, as you might have guessed, is going to have an appositive at the end of the sentence. So I say, at school, I like to wear Tom's shoes, my favorite type of footwear. So I'm adding this extra information that Tom's shoes are my favorite type of footwear. I could stop the sentence after, at school, I like to wear Tom's shoes. But I add on that appositive, my favorite type of footwear. So these are all examples of appositives and how we use them. You see them all the time, and whether you realize it or not, hopefully now you'll make a point of noticing it. But especially when you're introducing an author or a text, you might say, Paper Towns by John Green is an excellent book. By John Green, it's important and it's good information to know, but it's an appositive because it's separated by commas and it's extra information. If you take it out, you still have Paper Towns is a very interesting book. It still works. So that's an appositive phrase. Next, let's move to prepositional phrases. But first, let's remind ourselves what's a preposition. So prepositions typically fit into a magical sentence, which is the plane flew blank the cloud. What up? So proud of my PowerPoint skills. I hope you appreciate this. So the plane flew blank the cloud. Any word that fits into that sentence is almost certain to be a preposition. There are also some other words that are prepositions but don't fit into that sentence, so keep that in mind too. There's other ones, but if you look below, here's some examples I've included here. The plane flew through the cloud, the plane flew below the cloud, the plane flew toward the cloud. You've got lots of examples. But then you also have other ones, for example, against, between, outside. So sometimes they're not perfectly fitting into that sentence, but they're still prepositions. They have to do with the position of something in space or in time. So that's what a preposition is. A prepositional phrase is a little bit beyond that. So it starts with a preposition like you'd expect, so toward, behind, between, across, beneath, and then it continues on until it refers to a noun or a pronoun. And we call that the object of the preposition. So for example, if I said, I walked to the mall, to is a preposition, and the next noun that comes after to is mall. So to the mall is a prepositional phrase. Sometimes you might have a really long prepositional phrase, like if I said, I walked under the dark, scary rain clouds. I walked under the dark, scary rain clouds. From under, which is a preposition, I don't get to a noun until I get to rain clouds. So under the dark, scary rain clouds, it's long, but it's one prepositional phrase. So keep that in mind. It can sometimes be a little bit long. So let's look at some examples of these. We've got Isabel walked her dog to the park. Bethany was tired of coloring between the lines, so she began to scribble across the page. I'm sure some of us have done that. Inside my bag, my keys jingled. And Meredith looked like the belle of the ball on prom night. So let's start by breaking the first one apart. Isabel walked her dog to the park. Let's look for our preposition. In this case, we've got to. So the plane flew to the cloud. We can test it out that way. It works. And then we want to look for the object of the preposition. To where? In this case, it's to the park. So Isabel walked to the park. So the prepositional phrase is to the park. Nice and simple. Sometimes sentences have more than one prepositional phrase. If we look at this one, Bethany was tired of coloring between the lines, so she began to scribble across the page. First, we've got the preposition between. The plane flew between the clouds. That works. So we'd say between the lines. Lines are the object of the preposition. Then how about across? The plane flew across the cloud. Across is a preposition, so we would say across the page. So there's an example of a sentence with two prepositional phrases. Sometimes you'll have a sentence with a lot of prepositional phrases, so that can happen too. Then we have inside my bag, my keys jingled. Here's an example where the prepositional phrase starts the sentence. So inside is a preposition. Inside what? Inside my bag. So the phrase is inside my bag. And then here's one with to again. So Meredith looked like the belle of the ball on prom night. So although of doesn't fit into the sentence, the plane flew blank the cloud, can't really say the plane flew of the cloud, of is still a preposition. So in this case, we've got of the ball is a phrase. Of what? Of the ball. And then we have on. On is a preposition, so we have on prom night. So those are all great examples of prepositional phrases. So to sum it all up, Every sentence has to have a subject, or a noun, and a predicate, or a verb. And there are lots of different phrases you can add to these short sentences that can make them more interesting, that can clarify information. And basically, when we use them positively and properly, they can help us to introduce additional information that otherwise we wouldn't be able to tell to our readers. So when you're reading and when you're writing, look out for opportunities to use these and look out for opportunities to notice it in other people's writing. You'll find that they happen all the time. So just to bring it all back to the hippo, because why not? Melanie, the hippo, an exceptionally talented ballerina, danced across the stage. Hopefully you notice that Melanie not only rocks at dancing, but her sentence also incorporates both an appositive phrase and a prepositional phrase. Our appositive phrase is an exceptionally talented ballerina. We could take that out. We could say Melanie the hippo danced across the stage, and we still have a complete sentence. But instead, we have Melanie the hippo, an exceptionally talented ballerina, danced across the stage. And our prepositional phrase is, of course, across the stage. So hopefully you feel like a master of prepositional phrases and appositive phrases after watching this video. If not, you can always watch it again, and you're also certainly welcome to stop by and ask me directly if you have a question. I'm very excited to see you identify these for me and show me that you are super geniuses when it comes to appositive phrases and prepositional phrases. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.